English translation 184th contact, Saturday, 9th April 1983, 11:16 hours.
You responded very quickly to my call, although it did not have to be so rushed now. It still could have waited until tomorrow.
Not only your call persuaded me to come to you, but also an important concern that makes some information necessary for you. It could very well be that in the coming months, contacts with other human beings from SOL foreign stars await you.
I see, then you come in on both sides of the same thing. From my side, I mainly had a question about something rather strange that we could observe yesterday on the 8th of April. High in the eastern sky, I noticed a bright light at 2014 HRs, about 4 to 5 times as large as Venus. At first, I thought of the evening star, thus Venus, before it dawned on me that Venus is only visible to us in the southern and western hemisphere. Then, I looked at the bright light a little more closely, and I noticed that it was located in strange shifts of color, which permeated all the colors of the rainbow spectrum, and changes in form also arose. Consequently, I hurried into my office and grabbed my binoculars, through which I could then largely account for and observe the strange light formation in the sky, which was about a meter in size. To me, it seemed to be like a Fata Morgana, whose form changed constantly, and it also seemed to be somewhat transparent, so just like with a Fata Morgana. I estimated the altitude of the object to be about 35,000 meters, and that it was at a distance of about 18 to 20 kilometers away from our vantage point. What I still assessed during the observation was that on the right side, various small objects separated themselves from the large object and flew away. Moreover, I also saw that on the large object itself, there were several dark points and spots as well as outgrowths and the like. I already saw something similar on the Great Spacer of Ptah, which is why I was of the opinion that it had to have been a spaceship, but which one only saw as a Fata Morgana, or just simply as a reflection. I interpreted the flying away, glittering points to the right of the object to be beamships, while I supposed that the dark points and spots, as well as the outgrowths, had to be hangars and such, similar to the superstructures on Ptah's ship. Now, if I consider the size of the light of the object together with its distance, then I calculate that the ship's size must have been around 320 to 340 meters in diameter.
Before I came here, Quetzal warned me about you because we very well observed that the incident of the form mentioned by you had not remained undetected by you.
Oh, and why did Quetzal warn you about me?
He listened in on your conversation with Thomas and explained to me the information and estimated measures that you gave to Thomas, which come very close to reality. The object cited by you actually is a spaceship, but which you were only able to see as a reflection, even while the ship hovered directly over your center in order to investigate the place, and those humans who are, for us, the most significant mission-engaged ones on the Earth. For security reasons, which were made known to you by us, the flying apparatus was shielded from view, and it creates a form of reflection that is completely alien to our technology, which becomes visible in the atmosphere many kilometers away. Other human beings do not just have the same technology as we ourselves, which is well known to you. Thus, the Druons, with regard to screening technology, have completely different forms than what we possess. But now, a word about your estimates. The visible reflection of the aircraft sighted by you was 26,000 meters away from your location, while the altitude of the reflection amounted to 36,000 meters, with a ship's diameter of 350 meters. Thus, your calculations are more than just astonishingly good, which surprises me, despite Quetzal's advance warning. Also, your remaining descriptions of your observations demand admiration from me.
You said something about the Druons.
The flying apparatus is a spaceship from the planet Druon, whose human life forms we therefore call the Druons. They are a very widely developed and extremely peaceful human race that can bring some innovations to our own technology.
Special event on the 8th of April, 1983, 2015 hours.
Just as I was going to get additional tools for our current masonry work, Silvano suddenly said to Billy that there was a large light in the sky. Abruptly, I went back again to see whether it was the light that had already aroused my attention a few minutes before, of which I had not properly become aware, however. Billy abruptly ran into the house to get his binoculars. We searched for a suitable place and observed the thing. After a brief observation, Billy said suddenly, "Phenomenal! Look through here." And I looked through. What I saw made me stop breathing for a short time. There, very clearly and unambiguously, we saw a structure in the sky, without a definite shape, which constantly changed its form, whose colour also slowly changed, fading into a variety of shades. At Billy's request, I then ran into the house in order to call the others and let them see this. Having quickly returned to Billy, I was allowed to look through the binoculars once again. This time, the object was a shimmering light pink like, for example, the living nebula in Star Trek, Enterprise, etc. I could recognize a form with certainty, even though this was actually rather difficult because of the constant variations. Approximately, I could notice this form myself. Seen with the naked eye, one could see that the thing was about 5 times larger than Venus, the brightest and largest star-like object in the sky. What was evident to me, and also to Billy and some others who had come to us in the meantime, was the vertical, wedge-shaped structure that remained during the entire time of our observation. According to Billy's estimate, this object was to be observed about 35,000 meters high in the sky and about 18,000 meters away. Afterwards, as we sat in the kitchen discussing this, Louis confirmed that he had seen the bright object for a little longer than 45 minutes. Engelbert only looked at the little object for a short time and then turned away, for it was nothing special to him. He had already seen much more amazing things. The next day, Billy told us at work that Taljdar had also confirmed our sighting to him in the 184th contact. She explained that it had been a ship of 350 meters in diameter, which had its origin far from the Earth. On my side, I will retain this extraordinary incident in my best memory and as a commemorative, in sincere love, of our friends on Druan. Thomas Keller, Switzerland.
The planet Druan lies in the NOL system, which belongs to a galaxy whose size is about 1.7 times larger than ours, and this galaxy is located 3.10 million light-years away from the Solar System.
In 1975, I was already a little further away than just a stone's throw, on my great journey, you know. Therefore, a couple million light-years do not frighten me, and thus no longer impress me. Everything eventually becomes a habit.
Of course, but that is not why I explained this data to you.
You also generally have no sense of humor.
Oh, I see. This is what I was warned of by Quetzal. Your often strange sense of humor.
Even so, it is a nuisance, but you said something about the fact that I might get a visit, probably from these dear Druans.
That was my speech. The Druans are on an expedition here on Earth for at least 5 to 6 months, but in accordance with our experience, it could more likely last for years. During this time, their spaceship and their accompanying missiles can very often be seen by the Earth humans. But initially, and during the first weeks, this was only in Europe. After that, the Druan ships could then also be sighted over other continents of the Earth. So if the Earth humans keep their eyes open, then they will very often be able to observe the flying apparatus.
This will probably result in particularly sly and scientifically super clever explanations, such as balloons, etc. What does the object actually look like, if one disregards the distorted reflection?
Just like a discus-shaped object, although a completely different form is reflected outwardly by a special shield, which can be compared to the cone and facets of a rock crystal.
Does this then also appropriately give off all the colors of the spectrum?
You apparently are not ignorant of such things.
It is a simple prism principle that one here already learns in kindergarten. Like, for example, when one allows glass beads with abrasive surfaces to sparkle in the sunlight.
You never seem to be shy around answers.
Yes, that is why I also own speech organs. But now, you still have not told me anything about the possible contacts.
That, of course, it had escaped me. Thus, there is the possibility that a responsible person from the personnel of the Druon ship, perhaps even several, will enter into contact with you. In any case, they are interested in such contact, after we came to an agreement with them and discussed with them in detail, whereby we also explained to them our common mission on Earth.
And what can they want then from me? As an Earthling, I cannot really offer them anything.
You are too modest. Think once of the leading teaching persons on Era. The Druons are also human beings like us.
Florena's note. 8th January, 2004. The Plearan and the Druons established intensive contact with each other. In the course of 2 years, negotiations took place over an admission of the Druons into the Plearan Federation, which found its fulfillment with the integration of the Druons in February 1985. At the same time, they agreed on the integration of the Druons into the spirit teachings, as this is taught by the Plearan. Because the spirit teaching, now referred to as the creation energy teaching of the Druons, are in conformity with the teaching of the Plearan, as they are also taught by Billy on the Earth. On the 11th of May, Noam Ketzel, accompanied by a Druon named Zelton, the Thoughtful, appeared to Billy and explained to him that the spirit teaching, which Billy prepares for the Plearan spirit leadership, would also be passed on to the Druons in the future for learning purposes. The contact with Zeltan, the Thoughtful, remained unique, however. Since that time, the Druons have been working with Billy's teachings.
Too much honor.
That is not so.
I think so, nevertheless. But tell me, you always speak as though you yourself would see it as the Plearan do. How does this happen, since you come nevertheless from the Vega and Lyra systems?
Really, nothing escapes you. Your statement corresponds to the truth, to which it actually belongs. I want to formulate the answer to your question relating to this in such a manner. The Plearan, as you call them, thus our mutual friends, originally came from our systems, assuming that we take as a reference point that period when their ancestors left our systems. Unlike the Earth humans, the direct contact between the emigrants and those who remained on the homeworlds has been maintained and preserved up to the present day. Even though much has changed in the wise of life and in the overall development of both poles, different forms of technology developed, and differences more or less also appeared in the overall evolution. But the preserved connection was and is and will remain such that we see ourselves as a single people, even though we have our homeworlds many light years apart.
I understand. Thus, the principle would be this. If a man, for example, has 2 women, and thus 2 families, which lived in 2 different places, then it would be the same case. Even though the man's 2 wives and families live in 2 different places, they are still his own families.
Your description of the facts actually corresponds to our national relation.
Nice. Then once a question concerning your person. I estimate that you are about the same age as Simyase. Is that right?
In terms of age, I am somewhat younger because since my birth, 314 years have passed.
And is your average age also around 1,000 years?
I do not understand your question.
I know, it was illogical. My question should be whether your average age of your life expectancy is also around 1,000 years, as this is the case with the Plearan.
In this regard, the average age with us is set a little lower, namely at 987 years.
That is around 1,000, but never mind that. I have yet another question, if you permit.
Of course.
Good. Are you married? Do you have children?
No, neither of them.
Then you are still to be had. Nice. You would also please me.
Ah!
It is not necessary that you understand this. But if it still interests you, then simply ask Quetzal, and then tell him that it was no joke of mine, at least not regarding the pleasure.
The sense of your words is incomprehensible to me.
I counted on it. Just ask Quetzal.
I will probably have to do that.
Certainly otherwise, something will escape you. But now, something else, namely because of our paraphernalia. I know very well that you are extremely correct and also act accordingly in all matters. Nevertheless, could one not let a little more mildness prevail?
That would be irresponsible.
I nearly expected this response. Yes, I know only too well what mildness can immediately lead to. But still, I had to ask.
Your question is quite clear to me. But with everything, you should note that forbearance can and may only be exercised when mistakes appear, but never with misdemeanors and violations. Besides, as I have discovered with many and the most diverse Earth humans, they are of the opinion that as a result of their Earth humanity, they are entitled to be allowed to commit misdemeanors and offenses because their evolution, their knowledge, and their intelligence do not correspond to ours and only correspond to those of the Earth humans. But by no means may such an incorrect attitude be acceptable, neither for the Earth humans, nor for us, nor for other human life forms of any lower evolutionary stage. In another form, the mistaken notion also inexplicably prevails with many that as a result of their age, because they are already 20 or 32 years old or even older, they would be free from wrong decisions and false actions, and that their actions would correspond to that of an adult person, etc. But this truly only corresponds to misconceptions. Although the average age of the Earth human is about 52 years, and the European person can presently reckon the highest level of a 78-year average, unfortunately, this does not mean, though, that a person of this age would be mature and knowledgeable. Through all sorts of injustice, mismanagement, and false lifestyles, the average age the Earth humans sank to minimal values, losing round 900 years of life to which they were assigned at the earliest times after they had been able to bridge large periods of time by faster evolutionary processes. Through this, the Earth human ages completely physically in much less than a century, whereby they move from life to death while still in the child's developmental stage. Human life, in our and thus also in the earthly sense, because the Earth humans found a physical union with our ancestors, has an average age between 964 and 1,089 years, whereby other alien races and our human life forms exhibit much lower or much higher life expectancies. But in our and in the Earth humans' case, an average age of around 1,000 years must be noted because all our races stand in physical and old customary solidarity, equipped with the corresponding genetic makeup of the corresponding high life expectancy. If the Earth human, through old conventional maltreatment and wrong lifestyles, as well as criminal genetic manipulations, etc., already dies at the age of 70 or 80 years and has gone to ruin to the aging process during this time, then this entirely corresponds to a misdirected life process, which was maliciously established by foreign compulsion and even by the human beings of this world themselves over long periods of time, whereby the Earth human exchanges life for death while still in his or her childhood. At about 75 years of age, the Earth human would have to be only so far along naturally that he or she would actually reach adulthood at this time at the earliest and would also first become marriageable at this time, as you say. Compared to us, the Earth human at the age of 70 to 80 years dies during his childhood, whereby he prematurely grows old during this period and is incorporated into a cell decay. But this age range never suffices, at least not for our races, whose life expectancy should be valued at about 1,000 years, in which the Earth humans are also included, in order actually to become an adult. The time does not suffice, it is simply much too short. An Earth human, at the age of 50 years, is truly at the age of puberty and, thus, is still an adolescent, and yet, through their wrong thinking, they want to be more developed and more capable of making decisions than we, who are already at least 3 to 4 times older and have much more experience, which can normally never be given to an Earth human in a single existence, because the normal lifetime of the Earth human is limited to childhood through many ills, etc. In addition, if we still look at the comparison between us and the Earth humans, then it follows that also in reference to learning and the collecting of experience, the Earth human severely disadvantages themselves because out of what is possible for them to learn during about 70 years of life, they only learn an average of 11.6%, which means that they simply ignore 88.4%, overlook this, or consciously resist it. But this has the effect that an Earth human at the age of 70 years only has a volume of evolutionary progress and an actual knowledge of a child who is a little more than 7 years old.
These things have been explained to me several times, but even though everything is regrettable, it still cannot be changed overnight.
That corresponds to the truth. But within seconds, this knowledge could be taken up, be processed, and be accepted in every single Earth human, after which, accordingly, a change would have to take place towards progress, which would also entail that every Earth human recognizes his or her own little self as being so small, as this is actually the case. They would then also hear from us that we are truly older, more cognizant, and also wiser siblings. And they would pay attention to our advice, without stupidly, primitively, unjustly, and unreasonably criticizing us, for then the Earth human would recognize their true tininess and inadequacy against us, from which the realization could then mature that they, the Earth humans of every age, are actually nothing more than just immature and ignorant children or toddlers, even though during childhood their bodies already pass through a rapid aging process, accompanied by long-term damage and long-term failures.
It would really be something if the Earth humans would think a little more.
It would be very good for them. But now my time has become scarce. Goodbye.
Take care, Zitronata. Until next time, I will explain it to you then. Take care.